In preschool, the teacher asked the kids to draw their family tree. While the other children drew 3 thick branches, Lucy drew only 2. "Where is your daddy?" the teacher asked. Lucy pointed to the very bottom of the page, where the roots met the dirt. "My daddy is buried in the mud. He never comes home, so he's basically dead." Later, the teacher pulled a sketchbook from her backpack. It was filled with pages of tally marks. "Every time daddy promises to come home but doesn't, I draw a line," Lucy had explained. 12 groups of tallies. 60 times. The teacher told me she had already contacted a child psychologist. I told her it wasn't necessary. I knew Lucy didn't have a psychological disorder. She was just too smart. Smart enough to realize that grieving a death is easier than waiting forever. Lucy told the other kids in class that her father is dead. The teacher told me during a private parent-teacher meeting after school. I've had complaints from other parents. Their children are having nightmares. She told them that dead people don't come back, so being dead is actually better than being alive. I sat in the small, plastic classroom chair and offered no explanation. After leaving the preschool, I sat in my car for a long time. A small Disney charm hung from the steering wheel. Dennis had promised to take Lucy to get it last weekend, but he canceled. He'd promised the weekend before that, too. In the end, I was the one who bought it for her. When we got home, Lucy was drawing. She was sitting on the floor in front of the coffee table, crayons scattered around her. She was drawing a little girl standing next to a woman. "What are you drawing, sweetie?" "Mommy and me." "Where's Daddy?" "Daddy is at work." She didn't look up, focusing on coloring the woman's dress bright red. "Mommy looks pretty in red." "I bought that red dress last year. The day I brought it home." Dennis glanced at it, murmured a distracted "looks nice," and went right back to texting on his phone. Dennis came home late that evening. Lucy was still drawing, and he leaned over her shoulder to look. She immediately covered the page with her hands. "Let Daddy see." "You're not my daddy." He froze. "The teacher wanted us to draw our daddies today, but I don't know what you look like. I couldn't draw you." He pulled out his phone, scrolling through his camera roll. "How about Daddy prints out some pictures for you? Then you can see me every day." "Pictures are just pictures. They aren't real." "Lucy, Daddy's just been really busy with work." "Are you too busy to ever see me? There are very important things Daddy has to handle himself. Am I not important?" He knelt down, reaching out to hug her. Lucy took a step back. "You smell like someone else's perfume. It's not Mommy's. I hate it." His face fell. "Lucy, go to your room for a minute." Lucy looked at me, hugged her sketchbook tightly and walked away. The living room fell silent, leaving only the two of us. "Flora, don't listen to a kid's nonsense," he said. "Is she wrong? Is that perfume Christine's? She buys your shirts, she schedules your life, she travels with you. What's a little perfume compared to all that? If that's how you want to see it, I can't stop you." He grabbed his jacket, offered no further explanation, and walked out the door to have a cigarette. At 1 a.m., after Dennis fell asleep, I went through his phone. The password was still my birthday. There were no explicit texts, no obvious flirtations, nothing I could point to as definitive proof, but the absolute cleanliness of it was what felt wrong. He had 3 pinned chats, a client, his business partner, and Christine. I was not pinned. Scrolling up, the gap between his messages to Christine never exceeded 2 hours. The longest gap in his text to me was 5 days. During those 5 days, he had replied to Christine 37 times. He hadn't thought of me once. 1 a.m. Christine, draft finalized. Sent to your inbox. Dennis, thanks for the hard work. Get some sleep. 7 a.m. Christine, it's freezing today. Bundle up. Dennis, you too. I opened our own chat log. The most recent message from him was, won't be home for dinner. The one before that, out of town for 3 days. Only cold, transactional updates over the last 5 days. I scrolled further back, all the way to 6 months ago. That was when Lucy first started preschool and cried every day for a week. I had texted him, begging him to come home early to comfort her. He had only replied, hang in there. I'll try. He didn't even bother to vary his dismissive phrases. The next morning, the first thing Lucy did when she woke up was open her sketchbook. She picked up a pencil and drew a single line on the 13th page. Mommy, that's 61. That weekend, he said he had to go into the office. I made some soup and drove down to his office building. The receptionist recognized me. Dennis is still in a meeting. I waited for 30 minutes. The conference room doors opened, and Christine walked out first. She smiled warmly when she saw me. Flora, Dennis is going to be a little longer. She poured me a glass of water. His stomach has been acting up lately, and he keeps skipping lunch. He's drinking way too much coffee. You should really talk to him about it. I looked at her, my voice flat. I will. She turned and walked away, leaving me sitting there, my entire body stiff. I didn't know his stomach was hurting. She did. I didn't know he was skipping lunch. She did. I didn't know he was drinking too much coffee. She did. Everything she mentioned was something Dennis had never told me. When he finally came out of the meeting and saw me, his brow furrowed. What are you doing here? I brought you some soup. Just put it in the fridge. I have a lunch meeting with a client. You can't even have lunch with me anymore? It was a last-minute invite. I couldn't say no. You promised Lucy you'd spend today with her. We'll do it another day. I promise. Which day, Dennis? He paused, seemingly annoyed by my persistence. What is wrong with you today? Without waiting for an answer, he grabbed his coat and left. I sat there, staring at the unopened thermos. Christine came out of her office. Seeing me still sitting there, she smiled gently. Flora, did Dennis leave already? Let me put that soup in the break room fridge for you. Don't worry about it. In the elevator, I ran into one of his male employees. He glanced at me, then at the thermos. Bringing Dennis lunch? I nodded. He and Christine have been pulling crazy hours lately. Thanks for being so understanding. He's under a lot of pressure. Thank God Christine's there to help lighten the load. She's amazing. Handles everything for him so seamlessly. The elevator door slid open. I walked out in silence. When he came home that night and took off his suit jacket, I noticed he was wearing a brand new dress shirt. One I had never seen before. When did you get that? Bought it last week. I didn't press further. I waited until he went to take a shower. This time, I opened his online shopping history. The shirt had been ordered by Christine. The shipping address was the office. The purchase date was last Wednesday at 3 p.m. In the delivery notes she had written, Dennis's size is 16/34. The collar gets dirty easily, so please send 2 extra just in case. When he walked out of the bathroom, I didn't hesitate. Christine bought your shirt. He froze, towel in hand. She just helped me pick one out. She picks out your shirts, books your trips, buys Lucy's birthday presents. What else does she do for you, Dennis? This time his impatience flared. Do you have to make everything sound so ugly? Christine is just my assistant. Stop projecting your insecurities onto her. I'm just asking. What else does she do for you? He didn't answer. He threw on his pajamas and climbed into bed, turning his back to me. I'm exhausted. Can we not do this tonight? I turned off the light, but neither of us slept. He tossed and turned every few minutes. I lay there, thinking about the early days of our marriage. He used to bring me gifts from every business trip. He would hug me and kiss me the second he walked through the door. He used to drag me to the mall to help him pick out his shirts, asking me which colors looked best on him. Now someone else did that. Someone else knew his exact measurements, knew how easily his collars got dirty, knew his favorite fabrics. Someone else knew his daily meals and habits. And I hadn't even noticed. I hadn't even been given the chance. The next morning, Lucy asked me, Mommy, did you go to Daddy's office yesterday? Did he ask about me? I couldn't bring myself to answer. Lucy looked back down at her drawing. It's okay, Mommy. I'm used to it. Lucy missed him, so she used my phone to FaceTime him. It rang for a long time before someone finally picked up. But it was Christine's face on the screen. Hi, sweetie. Your daddy is in a meeting right now. I'll have him call you back as soon as he's done, okay? Lucy stared at the screen for a few seconds. Don't worry about it, Christine. I just wanted to see if he changed his phone number. Christine's expression stiffened. Lucy hung up and handed the phone back to me. Mommy, why does that lady always answer Daddy's phone? Because they work together. They're very busy. Then when is Daddy not busy? I had no answer. When you love someone, you answer their calls, Lucy said softly. He doesn't answer because he doesn't love us. Mommy, I'm a big girl now. I understand. That Friday afternoon was the preschool parent-teacher conference. Dennis had promised he would try his best to make it. I waited at the school hoping. Eventually, a text came. Last-minute contract signing. Can't make it. So once again I went alone. The classroom was packed with parents. When Lucy saw me walking by myself, her face didn't even change. The teacher had the children go up to the front to talk about their fathers. The other kids talked about what their daddies did for work, or where their daddies took them to play. When it was Lucy's turn, she stepped up and took the microphone. My dad is very busy. He's never home. What does your daddy do? The teacher prompted gently. Lucy thought for a moment. He makes phone calls. That's his job. He only knows how to call people. A few parents welcomed this with a chuckle. He makes a lot of calls every day, but he never calls me. The laughter in the room died instantly. How about Lucy tells us about her mommy instead? The teacher intervened quickly. My mommy is the best mommy in the whole world. She stays with me and takes care of me all by herself. She never says she's tired, but I know she is, because I hear her crying in her room at night. The classroom was dead silent. I sat in the very back row, tears slipping down my face. Lucy finished, bowed politely, and walked off the stage. When she reached my seat, she reached out and took my hand. I'm done, Mommy. On Friday, Dennis said he would pick Lucy up from school. When Lucy walked out of the school gates and saw him, she hesitated before walking over. "Hi, Mr. Dennis." He knelt down to her level. "I'm Daddy, sweetie." "No, you're just a stranger who visits sometimes." "Daddy is home now." Lucy didn't reply. She just gripped my hand. "Mommy, let's go." As we walked past him, Lucy paused. "Mr. Dennis, you don't need to pick me up anymore. I'm used to walking home with Mommy." He stood there, frozen. When we got home, Lucy was doing her homework. I went into her room with some sliced fruit and saw her sentence-building assignment. The prompt was to write a sentence using even though, but. She had written, "Even though Daddy came home, he is not my daddy." And, "Even though Mommy doesn't say it, I know she is sad." I stared at the page, set the fruit down and quietly walked out. That night, Dennis came home, his brow furrowed in anger as he looked at me. "Flora, who taught Lucy to say those things to me? Why didn't you show up to the parent-teacher conference today?" I countered. The contract signing was crucial. If we lost it, the company would have been in serious trouble. These conferences only happen twice a year. "I know, but." "There is no but. You always choose something else." "Do you think I want to? I'm working myself to the bone to make money for this family. This family doesn't need you to work yourself to death. Lucy needs a father. A father who shows up to school, who picks her up, who stays with her when she's sick." "I know that. You know it, but you don't do it." He slammed his fist on the counter and stood up. "Are you ever going to drop this?" He stormed into the study and slammed the door behind him. Lucy's bedroom door was cracked open. She didn't come out. The next morning, Lucy opened her sketchbook and drew another line on the new page. "Mommy, that's 62. She closed the book and looked up at me. "He always says he'll change, but he never does he?" A week before Lucy's 6th birthday, I reminded Dennis. "I'll be there. I promise," he said. But the day before her birthday, I received a text. "Emergency in Seattle. Can't make it back in time." I stared at the screen for a long time. I typed out several responses, then deleted them all. In the end, I sent nothing. When Lucy came home from preschool, she asked, "Mommy, is Daddy coming home tomorrow?" "No, sweetie." She went to the fridge, got a cup of yogurt, poked a straw through the foil, and set it on the coffee table. "This is my cake." She closed her eyes and made a wish over the yogurt. "Next year, I won't ask if Daddy is coming home." My heart ached so sharply it felt like a physical weight. On her birthday, a package arrived. The return address listed Christine's name. Lucy took one look at it and shoved it back into the box. "Daddy didn't buy this. He made that lady buy it. Mommy, can you return it?" A bitter taste filled my mouth. The next morning, Lucy woke up and went straight to the package. She found a piece of paper, wrote "Return to sender" in messy letters, and taped it to the box. "Mommy, can you mail this back? And tell Christine she doesn't need to buy me things anymore." "Lucy, that's not very polite." She was impolite first. She took my daddy. I knelt down and looked her in the eyes. "Lucy, nobody took Daddy away." Lucy thought about this for a second. "Then I shouldn't forgive him even more. He walked away on his own." That night, after Lucy fell asleep, I sat by her bedside. Her eyelashes were still damp with tears. My phone buzzed. It was a text from him. "Flora, I know it's Lucy's birthday. The message cut off there. He never sent a follow-up. In the middle of the night, Lucy woke up with a raging fever. The thermometer read 104 degrees. I called Dennis over a dozen times. When he finally answered, the background was dead silent. "What's wrong?" "Lucy has a fever. It's 104. I'm out of town. Take her to the ER." And then he hung up. I rushed Lucy to the emergency room, clutching her tight. Registering, paying, waiting for blood work. Lucy whimpered when they drew her blood, but she didn't cry. I held her close on the cold plastic chairs of the waiting room. With her eyes closed, she murmured, "Daddy." At 2 a.m., the results came back, a viral infection. She needed N4. When the nurse pricked her arm with the needle, Lucy finally broke down crying. Across the hallway, another father was holding his little girl. The girl was also on N4, and her dad was gently rubbing her back, whispering sweet things to comfort her. Lucy watched them, saying nothing. We stayed in the ER until 4 a.m. My phone lit up. "Dennis, how is she?" "I'm taking the earliest flight back tomorrow morning." By the time he got home the next day, Lucy's fever had broken, though she was still pale. He pushed the door open, holding a bag of fruit. "Lucy, Daddy's home." Lucy looked at him and said nothing. He knelt down, reaching out to hug her. Lucy shrank back. "Daddy, can you please not come back? Every time you do, I don't need you anymore anyway." His hands hovered in midair. Then he stood up and looked at me. "Come out here with me." We stood in the hallway outside her room. "Her fever was 104 last night. Where were you?" "I told you. I was out of town on business." "Business? Or spending time with Christine?" His face darkened. "Do you really have to start this right now? You weren't here when our daughter was sick. Now that you're back, I'm not even allowed to ask. I didn't come home to fight with you." He looked at me with cold, distant eyes. "Flora, you've changed." A dull ache bloomed in my chest. I let out a dry, hollow laugh. "While you were gone, Lucy had high fevers 3 times. Every single time, I was alone. She threw up in the middle of the night, and I was cleaning it up until dawn. She fell off the bed and needed stitches on her forehead. I was the one who had to sign the consent forms outside the operating room alone. She got pushed on the playground and scraped her knees. The school called, and I was the one who went to get her. I threw the empty medication packaging into the trash. Our daughter is 6 years old, Dennis. How many times have you actually been to the hospital with her?" His brow furrowed, and just as he was about to speak, his phone rang. He shot me a look, turned his back and answered. Through the quiet hallway, a panicked voice bled through the speaker. "Did you handle it? Did she find out?" A chill ran down my spine, freezing me to the core. He hung up the phone and turned to me, his expression suddenly panicked. "Something came up at the office. I have to go. Maybe we should get a DIV, I began. But he didn't let me finish. "We'll talk when I get back." He practically sprinted out the door. Lucy came padding out of her room on bare feet, asking if Daddy had left again. He had been in such a rush he'd left his jacket on the sofa. And in my head, Christine's words from the phone call kept looping. "I thought you said she would never find out." I walked into the study, opened my laptop, and typed 4 words into the search bar. The next day, when Dennis came home, his eyes fell on the paperwork resting on the coffee table. The color drained from his face. The paper did not rustle. It lay flat and heavy on the polished walnut of the coffee table, its blue legal backing casting a sharp, cold shadow across the wood. Dennis stared at it. The gray wool coat he was still holding in his hand slipped from his fingers, landing on the sofa with a soft, hollow thump. The snot-streaked, frantic exhaustion of his face didn't fade. It froze, his mouth remaining slightly open as his eyes ran over the bold, dark print of the heading. Petition for dissolution of marriage and division of CO-owned assets. "Flora," he said, his voice dropping into a dry, rattling whisper that sounded like gravel sliding down a chute. What is this? Are you really doing this? Over a fever? Over a business trip?" "It's not over a business trip, Dennis," I said, my voice carrying the flat, level rhythm of a dry laboratory report. "It's over 36 missed dinners, 6 missed birthdays, and 62 tally marks in a preschooler's notebook." Before he could answer, Lucy's bedroom door opened. She walked out silently, wearing her old flannel pajamas, her small bare feet making no sound on the hardwood floor. In her hands she clutched the faded green sketchbook. She walked to the table, placed the book directly on top of the blue legal folder, and looked up at her father with her quiet, sage-green eyes. "This is the 60-second mark, Mr. Dennis," Lucy said, her voice thin and clear. "You said you'd stay with me for my birthday, but you went to Seattle with Christine instead. The book is full now. There's no more room for your promises." Dennis's face went a sallow, paper gray color. He looked at the notebook, then at his daughter, and finally at me. He took a clumsy step forward, his hands reaching out to grab the edge of the table to support his weight. "Lucy, baby, please," he sobbed, his head bowing as he looked down at her. "Daddy was wrong. I was so stupid. The contract in Seattle. I only did it to pay for your school, to buy you the big doll." "I don't like dolls, Mr. Dennis," Lucy said softly. "I told you that last year. Christine was the one who picked it out." She reached out, gently took my hand, and pulled me toward her room. "Let's go, Mommy," she said. "The room is clean now." The LA regional headquarters of the Gray Group was in a state of high-intensity panic when the news broke. By Monday morning, the story of the Skutworks scandal had gone viral, turning Dennis's corporate reputation into a public joke. The local newspapers played the story of the silent savior on every page, with dozens of former partners coming forward to describe the years of systematic abuse and neglect I had endured while building my husband's company. I sat in my cozy, sunlit study in my new downtown apartment, a cup of hot chamomile tea in my hand, reviewing the final draft of my civil suit. My phone, sitting on the wood beside my tea, vibrated once. It was a news notification from the city. Former billionaire Dennis Gray's bankruptcy case concluded. Court orders liquidation of remaining personal assets to fund the Gray Memorial Trust. Beneath the headline was a small photo of Dennis standing outside the municipal courthouse. He was wearing a cheap, off-the-rack gray coat, his hair completely white, his eyes hollow, entirely free of the billions that had once made him untouchable. And as for Christine, she was currently serving her second year of a 15-year sentence in a state penitentiary, her name permanently removed from the company registry, her family's empire dismantled by the creditors and the prosecutors. I looked at the screen for a long, quiet moment. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel the sharp, twisting pain of the trauma that had kept me awake during those cold winter nights in the apartment. The boy who had pulled me out of the river, and the girl who had faked her pregnancy were gone, reduced to simple, dry statistics in a folder I would never open again. I closed the laptop, put my phone on silent, and picked up my tea. The transition of the Gray group was completed by the end of the week. The old townhouse on the hill, the one where Dennis and I had lived for 5 years, was quiet when the moving trucks arrived. The movers, wearing simple blue jumpsuits, were carrying the modular furniture out in cardboard boxes. I stood by the window of the master bedroom, watching the rain wash away the last of the dust from the slate floor. My mother-in-law, Eleanor, stood beside me, her hands trembling as she held my old hand-drawn calendar from our college years. "Flora," she whispered, her voice quiet, almost lost beneath the sound of the rain outside. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have taken you. I should have fought him." "It's okay, Eleanor," I said, my voice carrying that same quiet professional calm that had always been my anchor. "We're safe now." "And the company?" "The company has been restructured under the Winger Group," I said. "My father's estate has assumed the core shipping terminals. Dennis has 24 hours to clear his personal belongings from the building." Eleanor stared at the paper in her hand, her eyes wet with tears. "He was his grandfather's favorite," she whispered. "And now he's nothing." I didn't answer her. I turned and walked out of the room, my heels clicking a slow, steady cadence against the stairs, leaving the old house behind us in the dark. The municipal court of the Southern District was crowded with reporters, corporate representatives, and curious onlookers. It was the biggest trial of the year, a classic high society tragedy of a family destroyed by greed and a faked identity. The walls were lined with large monitors displaying the financial ledgers of the Gray Group's transaction history, and the atmosphere was cold, clinical, and heavy with the scent of wet wool and ozone. I sat in the front row of the public gallery, wearing a simple black trench coat. Beside me, my lead attorney Marcus was reviewing the final draft of my civil suit, his face calm and unyielding under his gold-rimmed glasses. He looked like an executor who had spent 30 years waiting for this exact case. The double doors of the courtroom opened. Dennis was led in by 2 state marshals. He wasn't wearing his custom navy suit or his expensive leather shoes. He wore a simple, dark green sweater that looked loose and wrinkled on his shrunken frame, his hands cuffed behind his back, his dark eyes wide and wild with a desperate, suffocating panic. When he saw me sitting in the gallery, his face went completely white. "Flora," he whispered, his steps faltering on the polished marble. "Flora, please. Just 5 minutes. Let me talk to you. The estate in LA. I'll sign the papers. I'll give you the art collection." "The estate is registered under the Winger Group's family trust, Mr. Gray," Marcus said, standing up and opening his leather briefcase. "It was seized by the court yesterday afternoon to cover the outstanding debts of the Gray Group. The defendant has no legal claim to any of those assets." "You." Dennis stared at me, his fingers tightening in his cuffs until his knuckles went yellow. "You ungrateful wolf. I married you. I gave you a name. I kept you safe. You kept me to be your servant, Dennis," I said, my voice carrying the flat, level rhythm of a dry logistics report. "You had me run to the pharmacy for you. In the snow while you were planning your dates with Christine. You faked your business trips. You let our daughter freeze." I stood up, looking down at him. "The trial is over, Dennis," I said. "And so are you." The judge didn't hesitate. He raised his wooden gavel and slammed it down with a sharp final clack. "Motion approved. The defendant, Dennis Gray, is sentenced to 15 years in the state penitentiary, without the possibility of parole." As the marshals led him out through the side doors, his head bowed, his body shaking with a silent, dry sobbing, I didn't look at him again. I walked out of the courtroom, my heels clicking a slow, steady cadence against the marble floor of the foyer, leaving the king of the double standards to rot in his own dark, empty cell. The coastal town of Mendocino was quiet in the winter. The air smelled of salt, pine needles, and the cold mist that rolled off the Pacific every morning. The only sound was the distant, rhythmic crash of the waves against the black cliffs of the harbor. I sat on the wooden deck of my small, gray-shingled cottage, a cup of hot chamomile tea in my hand. My daughter sat in her wheelchair beside me, wrapped in a thick wool blanket, her eyes bright and clear under the warm morning sun. Her mind, though still fragile, was peaceful now, her days spent watching the gulls soar over the harbor, her face completely free of the terror of the old town nursing home. "Flora," my business partner Marcus said, walking out of the kitchen with a plate of fresh, warm cinnamon rolls. He sat down beside me, pulling a wool blanket over our knees. "Are you cold?" I looked down at the design on my drawing tablet, the proposal for our new nonprofit public clinic in the southern province, then at the golden sunset over the ocean, and finally at his warm, genuine smile. No, I said, leaning my head against his shoulder. I'm very warm. Across the water, the first yellow lights of the harbor were starting to glow in the dark, but I didn't look at them. I closed my eyes, took a sip of my warm tea, and let the clean, cold wind off the water carry the last dry leaves of the past away into the endlessly beautiful horizon ahead. The waves below the cliff were high, their white crests catching the cold winter light of the morning. I stood by the wooden railing of the deck, my hands buried deep in the pockets of my green wool coat. Beside me, Lucy was wearing her new yellow rain boots, her cheeks rosy from the salt wind, her fingers tightly holding a small bag of breadcrumbs. She threw a handful of crumbs into the air. Look, Mommy, she said, her voice high, clear, and completely free of the dry, rattling whisper of her fevers. The gulls are eating them all. They aren't leaving any for the others. They're hungry, Lucy, I smiled, wrapping my arm around her shoulder and pulling her close against my side. Mommy, she said, her head leaning against my hip. Do you remember the black jacket? Yes, sweetie, I said. I gave it to the garbage man yesterday, she said, her expression serious. He said it was too old, but I told him it was just a shadow. And shadows don't belong in our new house. I looked at her, my hand gently smoothing a stray lock of hair behind her ear. You did the right thing, Lucy, I whispered. The sky is clear now. She turned and ran toward the garden, the small gray and white stray cat with the torn ear following behind her, their shadows long and golden against the wet sand of the path, leaving the cold, silent drawers of the past behind them, and stepping into the warm, endless horizon of our new life together.